You grabbed that bottle of white vinegar sitting in your kitchen cupboard because you heard it might save the plant you're staring at right now. The hydrangea with the yellowing leaves, the one whose blooms came in muddy and weak this year when they used to stop people on the sidewalk. Here's what almost nobody tells you. That vinegar can bring your hydrangea roaring back to life, but only if you use it for the right reason, in the right amount, at the right moment. Pour it on wrong, and you'll finish off the very plant you're trying to rescue. I know, because I nearly killed a 15-year-old hydrangea doing exactly that. One July, I misread every single warning sign it was giving me, and I threw the wrong fix at it out of panic. So today we're going to read your plant together, clue by clue, the way I finally learned to, and near the end I'll share the one thing a university soil lab taught me that turned everything around. The fix that heritage gardeners in England quietly used for 100 years before anyone put a number on it. This works whether your hydrangea is 3 months old or 30 years old and rooted deep by your front porch. Let me take you back to that July. I walked out with my morning coffee, and my big mop head by the fence looked tired. Not dead, just tired. The leaves near the top had gone a pale, sickly yellow, but the veins running through them stayed dark green like someone had traced them with a marker. And the blooms, which used to be this clean sky blue, had come in a dull, bruised sort of color. Not blue, not pink, just sad. My first guess was the same guess you probably made. I thought I wasn't watering enough. So let me start there, because this is the first wrong turn, and it's the one that costs people their plants. When a hydrangea's leaves go pale and the whole thing looks limp in summer heat, thirst feels like the obvious answer. The name itself has water hiding inside it, so we water more, and more. I dragged the hose out every single evening for 2 weeks that July, soaking the base until the ground squelched. The plant got worse. Here's why. Thirst in a hydrangea has a very particular look, and once you know it, you'll never confuse it again. A truly thirsty hydrangea wilts dramatically in the afternoon heat, the leaves going soft and drooping like wet paper. But then, in the cool of the evening or the next morning, it perks back up. That daily wilt and recover rhythm is the real signature of a plant that needs water. If your hydrangea wilts in the afternoon but stands back up by morning, water is your issue, and you can fix it in a day. But my plant wasn't doing that. The leaves weren't drooping, they were yellowing while staying upright, and the yellow was coming in that strange pattern, pale between the veins, with the veins themselves staying green. That is not a thirst signal. That is something else entirely. And I want you to look at your own plant right now and check for that exact pattern, because it's the single most misread clue on the whole plant. And here's the part that scared me. By overwatering, I was actually making the real problem worse. Soaking the ground every day was washing something out of the soil that my hydrangea desperately needed. I was drowning the patient while congratulating myself on the treatment. So, if it wasn't thirst, what was it? My second guess was that the plant was hungry, underfed. That felt smart because everyone knows a struggling plant needs feeding, right? So I went to the shed and pulled out a box of general purpose fertilizer, the balanced kind, and I scattered a big handful around the base. My thinking was simple. Yellow leaves mean it needs food. Feed it and the color comes back. I want to stop you before you do the same thing, because this is the second trap, and it's sneakier than the first. Yes, a nitrogen-starved hydrangea can yellow. But when a plant runs low on nitrogen, the oldest leaves at the bottom go yellow first, and they go yellow all over, veins and all, evenly, like a fading photograph. The plant is pulling nutrients out of its old leaves to feed the new growth at the top. So the damage starts low and old. My damage was doing the opposite. The newest leaves at the top were the palest ones, and the old leaves down low were still fairly green. That top-down pattern, with the veins staying green, was screaming a completely different message, and I was too panicked to hear it. When I threw that balanced fertilizer down, I got a little burst of green for about 10 days, and I thought I'd cracked it. Then the yellowing came back worse than before, and now the leaf edges were starting to brown and crisp. I'd stacked a second mistake on top of the first. The fertilizer had actually shifted the soil in a direction that locked my plant even tighter into its real problem, and I still couldn't see what that problem was. That browning on the edges sent me down my third wrong path, and I'll bet money some of you are on this one right now. I decided it had to be sunburn, scorch. The leaves were crisping at the edges, we were in a heat wave, so obviously the sun was cooking my hydrangea. It made perfect sense. I even started planning to rig up a shade cloth over the whole bed. Now, leaf scorch is real, and hydrangeas do suffer in brutal afternoon sun, especially the big leaf types. But scorch has its own fingerprint too. True sun scorch shows up as brown, dried patches on the leaves most exposed to the hottest afternoon light, usually on the sunny side of the plant, and the browning comes without that even yellowing across the whole leaf surface first. It's localized. It follows the sun. My yellowing was everywhere the new growth was, sunny side and shady side alike. It wasn't following the light. The browning edges were coming after the yellowing, not instead of it. That told me the scorch was a symptom of something deeper, not the cause. The leaf tissue was so weakened and starved that it couldn't hold moisture at the edges anymore. The sun was just finishing off leaves that were already dying from the inside. 3 guesses. 3 wrong answers. And every wrong fix I tried made my hydrangea sicker, because I was treating symptoms while the real cause sat there, invisible, in the one place I never thought to look. So let me tell you what finally cracked it, because this is where the whole mystery turns. I was standing there one evening, defeated, ready to accept I'd lost this plant, when a neighbor of mine, a woman who'd been gardening on that street for over 40 years, wandered over. She looked at the pale leaves with the green veins for about 5 seconds, and she said one word that changed everything. Chlorosis. I'd never heard it. She explained it like this. She said the yellow with green veins pattern isn't about water, and it isn't about food you're missing, and it isn't about the sun. It's about the plant being unable to reach the iron that's already sitting right there in your soil. The iron is present, the roots just can't pull it in. And when a hydrangea can't get iron, it can't make chlorophyll, the green pigment. So the tissue between the veins goes pale, while the veins, which get served first, stay green. If the iron is right there in the soil, why can't the roots reach it? And the answer is the thing this entire video has been building toward. The answer is soil pH. It's the invisible chemistry of the ground your hydrangea lives in, and it controls whether every nutrient in that soil is available to the roots or locked away where they can't touch it. Here's the piece almost nobody explains properly. Soil pH runs on a scale from very acidic to very alkaline, with neutral sitting in the middle at 7. Hydrangeas, especially the big leaf mopheads and lace caps most of us grow, want acidic soil. They're happiest somewhere around 5.5, give or take. When the soil is in that sweet acidic range, iron and aluminum dissolve into a form the roots can drink up easily. But the moment your soil creeps up toward neutral or alkaline, up past 7, something cruel happens. That iron and aluminum bind up chemically. They're still physically present in the dirt, but they turn into a locked form the roots simply cannot absorb. Your plant is standing in a pantry full of food behind a door it can't open. It starves in the middle of plenty. And now here's the part that made my stomach drop when I understood it. Remember all that daily watering I did? In many areas, especially if you're on hard tap water like I am, your tap water is slightly alkaline and full of lime. Every single evening I soaked that plant. I was raising the soil pH higher and locking the iron away tighter. My rescue was the poison. And the balanced fertilizer I dumped on top? Some of those shift pH the wrong way too. I had spent 2 weeks methodically closing the pantry door on my starving plant. Take a breath, because I know some of you are looking at your hydrangea right now thinking it's too late. The leaves are pale, the edges are brown, maybe a few whole leaves have dropped, and you've maybe done some of the same watering I did. I need to talk to you specifically for a minute, because this next part is for the plant that's already showing real damage, the established shrub you've grown for years and thought you might have lost. Here is the truth that saved my 15-year-old plant, and it can save yours. A hydrangea suffering from locked up iron is not dead, and it is usually not even close to dead. The roots are alive, the wood is alive. What you're seeing is a feeding problem, not a rotting problem. And feeding problems can be reversed inside a single season if you act now. I've watched a plant that looked like a write-off in mid-July push out healthy green leaves by late summer once the soil chemistry was corrected. The first thing to do with an established, damaged plant is stop making it worse. Stop the daily deep watering immediately. Water deeply, but only when the top inch or 2 of soil has actually dried out. And if you possibly can, catch rainwater in a barrel and use that instead of the tap. because rainwater is naturally slightly acidic and it won't fight you. That one change alone, switching a mature plant from hard tap water to collected rainwater, has pulled more struggling hydrangeas back from the edge than any fancy product I've ever bought. That was the exact pattern on my plant. Exactly. And if you've been reading along and recognizing your own hydrangea in every line of this story, I want to pause here for just a moment. Because everything I've shared with you today, reading the pattern on the leaf, understanding the soil, the rescue steps, the vinegar method, the numbers that actually work. I went much deeper on all of it in my book series, First Bloom, Deep Roots, and Full Bloom System. Together, they walk you through diagnosing, rescuing, and then truly mastering your hydrangeas season by season, the way I wish someone had handed me a guide before that July. All three are available for $67, and you'll find the link in the description below. If this video already changed how you're looking at your plant, those books will change how you look at your entire garden. Now, back to the question that had been hiding under all three of my wrong guesses, and it's the one this whole video has been building toward. The second thing is to test, not guess. This is where I'd been failing for years. You can buy a simple soil pH test kit or a little probe meter at any garden center for around $10 to $15, and it will tell you in minutes the single most important number about your plant's health. I pushed my probe into the soil by that fence, and the needle read close to 7.5. Alkaline. Way too high for a hydrangea. That number was the confession my soil had been trying to make all summer, and I'd never once asked it the question. For a mature plant with a big root system, you also want to feed the soil life, not just dump chemicals. A generous layer of acidic organic mulch around the base works slowly but powerfully. Pine bark, pine needles, or well-rotted leaf mold laid down 2 to 3 inches thick, kept back a little from the main stems, will gently acidify the top layer of soil as it breaks down and feed the roots at the same time. Old English gardeners swore by a mulch of oak leaves and pine needles around their blue hydrangeas for exactly this reason, though they couldn't have told you the chemistry. They just knew what kept the blue coming back year after year. And for the leaves that are already pale right now, on an established plant, there's a faster trick that buys you time while the soil slowly corrects. You can get liquid chelated iron, which is iron in a special pre-unlocked form the plant can use even in less than perfect soil, mix it as directed, and spray it directly onto the foliage in the cool of early morning or evening. The leaves absorb it straight through their surface, bypassing the locked soil entirely, and I've seen pale leaves green up noticeably within a week or two of a foliar iron spray. It's a bandage, not a cure, but when your plant is starving, a bandage that feeds it right now matters. So that's the rescue plan for the plant that's already hurting. Stop the alkaline watering, test the soil, mulch with something acidic, spray chelated iron on the worst leaves for a quick lift. But all of that still leaves the biggest question of all hanging in the air. How do you actually bring that soil pH down this season cheaply using something you already have in your house? Because mulch takes months. Special soil acidifiers can take a full season to work and they cost money. When your plant is starving in July, months is too long to wait. And that, finally, is where the vinegar comes in. This is the secret I promised you at the start, and I want to tell it to you properly, the way it was told to me, because it deserves better than the careless advice floating around online. Here's the thing about vinegar and hydrangeas. The internet is full of people telling you to pour vinegar on your plant, and it's full of other people screaming that vinegar will kill it. Both of them are half right, and that's exactly why so many gardeners get burned. Vinegar is an acid, acetic acid. And acetic acid will absolutely lower the pH of your soil, which is precisely what an iron-starved, alkaline soil hydrangea needs. But vinegar straight from the bottle is far too strong. Pour it neat onto the root zone and you'll scorch the fine feeder roots and the soil life along with the alkalinity. That's the horror story people warn about. They're not wrong that it can happen. They're just wrong about why. The answer is dilution and moderation. And I finally found the real numbers, not from a viral post, but from talking through it with a soil specialist at a university extension service, the kind of no-nonsense agricultural office that's been advising farmers and gardeners for over 100 years. What she explained lined up perfectly with what those old English hydrangea growers had been doing by instinct for generations. Here is the method. Take plain white distilled vinegar, the ordinary 5% kind from the kitchen, the cheapest bottle on the shelf. Mix 1 tablespoon of that vinegar into 1 gallon of water. That's it, 1 tablespoon per gallon. It sounds almost too weak to matter, and that gentleness is exactly the point. You are nudging the soil, not shocking it. Then, instead of your normal watering, you water your hydrangea with this vinegar solution around the base, soaking the root zone. You do this roughly once every 2 to 4 weeks during the active growing season, spring through summer. Not every day, not even every week. Just a gentle acidic correction every few weeks, and crucially, you keep that little pH probe handy and you check the soil before and after. You are aiming to bring the number down gradually toward that happy range around 5.5. You are not trying to crash it there overnight. When I did this, when I finally stopped panicking and started acting like a scientist instead, the change was quiet at first and then undeniable. After the first watering, nothing obvious. After the second, 2 weeks later, the newest little leaves at the tips came in a shade greener than the ones below them. By the end of the summer, the pale interveinal yellowing had stopped spreading. The fresh growth was a healthy deep green, and my probe was reading down around 6, heading in the right direction. The plant I'd been ready to dig up was alive and feeding itself again, and there was a bonus I hadn't even been chasing. As the soil turned more acidic, that locked-up aluminum I mentioned started becoming available too. And aluminum is the exact element a big leaf hydrangea needs to turn its flowers, that gorgeous true blue. The next summer, the blooms didn't come in muddy and bruised. They came in clean, clear, sky blue, the color I'd nearly lost forever. The vinegar didn't just save the plant. It gave me back the flower I fell in love with. Now, I need to be honest with you about the limits, because I promised you real knowledge, not magic. Vinegar is a fast-acting, short-lived acid. It moves the needle quickly, but it doesn't hold the soil there permanently the way sulfur or a good acidic mulch will over the long run. So the smartest approach, the one that soil specialist walked me through, is to use the diluted vinegar as your fast correction to rescue the plant this season, and at the same time lay down that acidic mulch and, in autumn, work in a slow-release soil acidifier so that next year the pH holds steady on its own, and you barely need the vinegar at all. Fast fix and slow fix. Working together, the vinegar buys you the time that the slower methods need. And one more warning, because I care about your plant. This gentle vinegar method is for hydrangeas and other acid-loving plants like azaleas, rhododendrons, and camellias. Do not go pouring vinegar around plants that love neutral or alkaline soil, and never, ever use the strong horticultural or cleaning vinegar, the 20 or 30% stuff, anywhere near a plant you want to keep. That concentrated vinegar is sold as a weed killer for a reason. It kills. Stick to the ordinary 5% kitchen kind. Stick to 1 tablespoon per gallon, and you're working with the same gentle chemistry those heritage growers used to keep their blue mop heads glowing a century ago. So let's step back and put the whole mystery together, because I want you to be able to read your own plant the way I finally learned to read mine. You walk out and you see pale leaves. Before you touch a hose, before you grab a bag of fertilizer, before you blame the sun, you stop and you look at the pattern. If the plant wilts in the afternoon and recovers by morning, that's thirst, and you water. If the oldest, lowest leaves are evenly yellow all over, that's hunger, and you feed gently. If the browning follows the hottest afternoon sun on one side, that's scorch, and you shade. But if you see that unmistakable signature, the newest leaves going pale while the veins stay stubbornly green, top of the plant first, then you've found what I found. It isn't thirst, it isn't hunger, it isn't the sun. It's locked iron. It's your soil pH sitting too high, holding the food hostage. And the fix is not more water. The fix is to gently, carefully bring that soil back to the acidic range your hydrangea has been quietly begging for, using a soil test to guide you, a tablespoon of vinegar in a gallon of water every few weeks to correct it fast, and acidic mulch to hold it there for good. I lost most of one summer's beauty to my own panic because I treated the symptoms and never asked the soil the one question that mattered. You don't have to lose a single season. You caught this in time. That's what clicking on this was really about. If you've spent years nurturing a hydrangea, watching it come back bigger every June, learning which corner of the garden it likes best, then you already know it's not just a shrub. It's part of the shape of your year. You're the kind of gardener who refuses to give up on a plant with a little life still in it. And that instinct is exactly right. You just needed the real diagnosis, and now you have it. So do this for me. Go out to your hydrangea today, look closely at the newest leaves at the top, and tell me in the comments, are the veins staying green while the space between them goes pale? That's the clue that changes everything. And I genuinely want to know if you're seeing it, because it tells me how many of you have been misdiagnosing this exact thing for years. Leave me a comment and describe what your leaves look like right now. And tell me where in the world you're gardening from, because your climate and your tap water change this story more than you'd think. And I read every single one. If reading your plant instead of guessing at it feels like the thing you've been missing, then come along with me, because that's all we do here. We learn to listen to what these plants are actually telling us instead of throwing fixes at them and hoping. Stay with me, because the next plant I'm putting under the magnifying glass is the one so many of you have asked about. The hydrangea that refuses to bloom at all, green and healthy and leafy, but not a single flower. And the real reason is a mistake most people make with their pruning shears in the wrong month. I'll show you exactly which cut is quietly stealing your blooms and how to get them back. I'm Mary, and if you're still here, this part's for you. Inside the Blooming Garden Circle, we go deeper, reading your hydrangea's leaf clues right where we left off. And you can ask me your own question, with a real person, me, answering you myself. You'd be joining thousands of gardeners just like you. Point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. Cancel anytime, one click, no risk. Come join me. Now, if you love your roses, there's one summer habit that can bring you a whole second wave of blooms. I'll show you the simple mistakes to avoid. So stay right here and let's keep going together.